There are only 3 ingredients you need to make beer: water, malt, and yeast. But one additional ingredient has gone from supporting actor to leading lady in the last 30 years of craft brewing. That's right, today we're talking about hops. Hello beer nerds, this is Beer by the Numbers. Hops are a magical plant as they turn beer from a dull, sickly sweet beer into a delicious and well-balanced beverage. We've covered IBUs on how hops make beer bitter previously, but we didn't spend much time talking about the plant itself, and it's time we rectify that. If you're excited to talk about the bitter world of hops, smash that like button below. Let's shoot for 20 likes on this video. Let's get started. As far as beer is concerned, what we call hops are actually the cone-shaped flowers of the female hop plant, aka Humulus lupulus. A cousin of cannabis with none of the THC, alas, hops are a part of the Cannabaceae family, which is a small family of plants that includes some small trees, erect herbs, and vines like hops. The plant part used in brewing beer is the hop flower, a delicate pale green papery cone full of perishable resins. They give a beer bitterness when used early in the brewing process and aroma when added at the end. As a bonus, hops are a preservative. Many undesirable microbes find the compounds in hops very unpleasant, and thus, hops extend the life of beer. Generally, hops are added at the boil stage of brewing, and it takes a pretty long time to unleash the alpha acids that bitter and balance the sweetness of the malt. This is why hops weren't incorporated into beer production until around the turn of the 10th century AD. Ancient man probably wouldn't have had the time or inclination to chill out around a fire as his hops boiled. The first documented use of hops in beer is from the 9th century. Before this period, brewers used gruit composed of a wide variety of bitter herbs and flowers, including dandelion, burdock root, marigold, ground ivy, and heather. Early documents include a mention of a hop garden in the will of Charlemagne's father, Pepin III. Today, hops are grown around the world. Global hop production is at an all-time high due to America's new obsession with hoppy beer. Commercially, hops are grown in high quantities in the northwest of the United States, the United Kingdom, Central Europe, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. Cultivation of hops for commercial production requires a particular environment. Plants can be fussy after all. Hops are a climbing plant. They are trained to grow up trestles made from strings or wires that support the plants and allow them significantly greater growth with the same sunlight profile. In this way, energy that would have been required to build structural cells is freed for crop growth. Harvest comes near the end of the summer when the vines are pulled down and the flowers are taken to the hop house, or Osthaus in German, for drying. Hop houses are 2-story buildings, of which the upper story has a slatted floor covered with burlap. Here the flowers are poured out and raked even. A heating unit on the lower floor is used to dry the hops. When dry, the hops are moved to a press, a sturdy box with a plunger. 2 long pieces of burlap are laid into the hop press at right angles. The hops are poured in and compressed into bales. Hop cones contain different oils such as lupulin, a yellowish waxy substance, and oreosin that imparts flavor and aroma to beer. Lupulin contains lupulone and humulone, which possess antibiotic properties, suppressing bacterial growth, favoring brewers' yeast to grow in the beer. After lupulin has been extracted in the brewing process, the papery cones are discarded. The need for mass labor at harvest time meant hop growing had a big social impact. Around the world, the labor-intensive harvesting work involved large numbers of migrant workers who would travel around for the annual hop harvest. Whole families would partake and live in hoppers' huts, with even the smallest children helping in the fields. Many books contain a vivid description of London families participating in the annual hop harvest. In England, many of those picking hops in Kent were from eastern areas of London. This provided sort of a working vacation from urban conditions, as whole families took a trip to the countryside. I'm sure today you would be able to find some beer nerds and homebrewers that might even pay you for the privilege of picking some hops and then taking a few home. My, how times have changed. Today, thanks to extensive breeding programs, there are hundreds and hundreds of varieties of hops. New hop varieties are bred to accentuate a positive trait. like increasing alpha acids, or decrease a negative trait such as a hop's susceptibility to a particular disease. In nature, hops reproduce either by pollination of the female, which develops a seed, or by roots forming runners that spread out and emerge from the ground, creating new plants away from the main plant. A typical commercial hop field has only female hops and are only grown in one variety. The female develops a hop cone that we have come to know and love in brewing. This cone can possess up to 10,000 lupulin glands, which contain the hop resins and oil profile used in that brewing process. The male flower, on the other hand, only produces 10 to 25 such glands, so it's pretty useless when it comes to brewing. Because this controlled planting, you can't expect random acts of intervariety breeding to create the next big cluster or cascade. New varieties are produced in three basic ways. The first is by mutation or by natural selection. Beneficial mutation doesn't happen very often, but some famous hops have been discovered this way, such as Bates, a type of cluster. The second method of producing a new variety is by mass selection. In this process, you would cross many plants, either in a controlled or uncontrolled fashion. Controlled means you know both parents, and uncontrolled means you don't. So you just cross plants, test the results, and cross your fingers. Examples of hops coming from a controlled program are Nugget, Olympic, Chinook, Centennial, and Cascade. The third way to breed hops is by chemical inducement. Most hops are called diploids because they have two sets of chromosomes. A chemical is used to create a tetraploid hop, one with 4 sets of chromosomes. Then the tetraploid is crossed with a diploid to create the final product, a triploid hop. The goal of commercially grown triploid hops is to create a female that acts like she is pollinated but is in fact sterile. The result is bigger yields without all the seeds of pollinated hops. The seeds are undesirable because they lower the harvested hop's value. The Willamette variety is a triploid version of Fuggle. Mount Hood, Crystal, Ultra, and Liberty are all triploid hops. Now, if all that wasn't complicated enough, there's a multi-year process after you get a variety you like in order to establish commercial levels. Even tracking hop parentage can be quite complicated. This chart shows the family tree of 6 varieties of popular hops today. As you can see, there have been quite an effort from drinkers and growers alike to get the hundreds of varieties of hops we have today. If you're curious on more specific hop varieties, I have a link in the description below to one of the most helpful websites I've found. And before we wrap up our discussion of hops, I think it's important to realize how much the hoppy West Coast IPAs have really boosted demand for hops globally. Brewers are facing rising hop prices in recent years because there is so much demand for both bittering and aromatic hops. I have a ton of posts over on my Twitter page about rising hop demand and the cost of hops, so check the link in the description below for more. So there you have it, beer nerds, a quick overview on hops. Man, there is a ton of great information on hops out there and plenty of reading material for you if you're interested. If you have a favorite variety of hop or a favorite hop aroma or flavor, please tell me about it in the comments below. I love talking about hops. And if you enjoyed this video, smash that bitter and aromatic like button below. And if you want to be alerted each time we tap a fresh episode of Beer by the Numbers, hit that subscribe button. Stay curious, beer nerds, and as Russell Crowe once said, I have respect for beer.